And it's a relatively new form, and it's for people who are seriously ill, or very elderly and frail and who are ready to accept death when it comes. It's very important in emergency medical situations, like when 911 is called. And it's not an advance directive, but rather a non-hospital medical order. So there's a couple of things you need to know about your advance directive versus POLST. The only document that the emergency medical service providers will honor is a POLST form. And the POLST form has to be completed by you or your legal surrogate decision maker, your healthcare agent, or someone else who has the right to sign on your behalf, and a physician. Emergency medical service providers will not honor necklaces or bracelets that say DNR, or any other document. They won't even honor a tattoo that says DNR on your chest, and I've seen one. I didn't want to see it, but I saw it. Never mind. So it's important to understand that advance directives are not really useful in an emergency medical system or situation. The other time that your advance directives aren't particularly useful are when you have elective surgery. Now, some of you who have had elective surgery may have read your consent form for surgery closely enough to find the clause in it that says, "We will not honor your advance directive during the surgery." And that's standard practice. Most surgeons won't operate on somebody who's very close to death or who's likely to die during the procedure. And so they're going to do everything they can to keep you alive during the surgery. Now, the advance directive might take effect later on. The surgery doesn't go well and you end up in the critical care unit. But during the actual surgery, your advance directives are suspended. So understand that going in the door when you elect to have surgery. So if you're somebody who doesn't want emergency medical treatment, life-sustaining treatment, if you're seriously ill or you're very elderly and you've had a great life and you're ready to accept death when it comes, then the POLST form is for you. And it's really important to have that. Because if you don't have that, you're going to get full treatment. Now, it doesn't mean that full treatment will continue indefinitely. When you get to the hospital, your healthcare agent or your advance directive and your healthcare agent can say, withdraw this treatment, it's not what you wanted, here's her directive. Okay, so that's important. POLST doesn't take the place of an advance directive, but it's something to use in addition to one under certain circumstances. So a couple of years ago, I was doing a presentation like this at a senior center up in the Skagit Valley, and I was talking about the POLST form of these two women who, were in great shape. I don't know, they were probably in their mid-70s or something. They had just come off the tennis court. And they heard me talking about POLST, and they said, "Oh, we have those on our refrigerator." And I was like, they looked like an advertisement for a Geritol commercial. They were in perfect health, and I said, no, you don't need a POLST form, you need advance directives. POLST for people who are sick. People who wouldn't be surprised to die in 6 months to a year, something like that, okay? Most of you are not candidates for the POLST form, but if you get into a situation where you're terminally ill, or where you're lucky enough to live into your 90s or your 100s, and you know that if you have a heart attack or some serious medical complication, your quality of life is probably not going to be very good for the rest of your life, then the POLST form is probably for you. POLST is a bright green form. I think we have a copy of it in the packet. So it's a bright green form, and copies of the POLST are valid. The problem is that they don't copy very well because they're bright green. So here's the solution to that. If and when you make a POLST form for you and your doctor make a POLST form for yourself or for someone else who's not competent to make one, have the doctor make an extra copy. Make 2 or 3 copies of the POLST form, same choices, and that way if one gets lost or one doesn't get come back after somebody goes to the emergency room, you'll still have another one, still have a spare. The POLST gets transferred from one place to the other. So if a person is in a nursing home, they have a POLST form. If they get transferred to the emergency room or the hospital, the POLST goes with them. And when they go back from the hospital, back to the nursing home, or back into the home, the POLST form is supposed to go with them. So if you're someone's advocate or family member, make sure that POLST form comes back, or that POLST form goes with somebody. That's really important. And that's what the POLST looks like front and back. The front part is sort of the most important part. It says, you know, CPR, you know, do I want comfort measures only? Now, POLST doesn't mean just leave me on the floor gasping for breath. Okay, you can indicate that you don't want CPR or other life-sustaining treatments, but you want full comfort measures. And so what's a good comfort measure for somebody who's having a heart attack but doesn't want CPR? Morphine. And so the providers are they're going to relieve your suffering. They're not going to leave you, you know, in pain. Not going to be, oh, a POLST form, and turn around, walk out the door. It doesn't work that way. They're going to make sure you're comfortable. So the POLST form itself doesn't have any agenda. You know, you can indicate if you want CPR, if you don't want it, if you want antibiotics, you don't want antibiotics. But again, it's the only way to make sure that your choices are going to be honored by the emergency medical providers.